of emerging technology. Even in Delhi, if we can call ki there are pockets which belongs to global north, but there are also some pocket which belong to global south. And we need to understand, and we have to also ensure how we can कैसे इनका इक्विटेबल हम डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन कर सकते हैं. और उसमें जो सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट है, आई थिंक वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट, कि हम डेटा को कैसे यूज करते हैं. एंड पीपल हु आर ऑफरिंग दोज डेटा, कैसे उनको हम उस स्टेक होल्डर मानते हुए एक जस्टिफाई वर्जन में कैसे उनके साथ हम निगोशिएट करते हैं और कैसे हमको उस इकोसिस्टम का उनको पार्ट बनाते हैं. This is the key area जिस पर I think our panel will discuss, and we have I think very eminent personalities among us who have kind of a vast experience of handling, not only handling data but to use those data for the public good, for the public consumption. We have with Dr. M.M. Tripathi, who is a DG of NILET, and NILET basically are using or creating data center, AI labs, and democratizing the data for the public good. They are including and involving those communities who are earlier not part of the data ecosystem. So they have established lot of AI labs, lot of NILET center, those part of the country where people usually do not have any kind of emerging technology access. We have Professor Alok Rai. He's the director of IIM Calcutta. Earlier he was with the Lucknow University, and he is a democratized educational institution, not only Lucknow University but IIM Calcutta as well, to involve the students who earlier do not have the kind of quality educational access, quality educational equipment. He has created a lot of centers to promote and to make education and technology accessible to all parts of the society. And we have Professor Salam from IIT Kanpur, who is the professor of STAT, and he will explain the kind of the
significantly interinstitutional structures incorporate elements of
no who will explain the usage of data. And first I will request Dr. Tripathi to
Thank you. This is a very important topic today, and as it has been told about NILET that NILET has democratized the education. So I'll take just 2 minutes on that. That NILET has 56 centers across the country, almost present in every state, islands, and deep into the villages in Northeast also. We almost skill 1 million every year through our various programs. Recently, we created 28 India Data Lab in the country. I think just 4 months back, in 28 locations. But interestingly, you can see that 3 very important products are there on display. If you go to MITI Pavilion, you can see what our students can do if they're given the opportunity. One product is SignWorld, which converts any video or any audio in the Indian sign languages. Not in American Sign Language, in the Indian Sign Language. Another is audio to audio translation of language in Northeast, like English to Manipuri or Hindi to Manipuri. And yesterday also I was talking a third very simple tool to convert in Srinagar, the artisan which are making this qaleen. Normally it takes many months to design one qaleen. And now the AI tool generates in minutes, just to do the GUI thing, and it will make an output of the talim. So these are the small interventions in very, very small time, which has been done. along with that, we have created a NILET Digital University platform, which is the first digital university platform for education in the country. It's very AI intensive platform and one of the best example of AI in education, which is now in 4 months only, we got around 50,000 registered students on this platform, and every minute one student is getting registered on this platform now. So these are the very useful data which is going to be there on our platform, and this data is open to any researcher to use it and develop small models on the LLMs or whatever it is for different applications in education, and also will be used for research and collaboration. So now coming to the point, in the global south, we have different kind of data available with us, and mostly the big tech companies who are developing LLMs, they look at us as a consumer only. So these tools are coming up, we are giving our data, and then again the data will be used to develop other different products for our consumptions. So that's a challenge, how to address this, right? Because in the age of AI, any idea can be pushed. So when suppose you are teaching your children something else based on our culture and ethos and other things, and the child is going on Google and some chat GPT and all and trying to find some different answer, and then there is a conflict that the child will trust you, or child will trust the teacher, or child will trust the chat GPT. So these kind of challenges will come up, you know. So it's very important for global south and India also that how we protect our data and how can we develop models for ourselves instead of relying on the large language models for everything, because that is the area where there will be a lot of competition in the world. But certainly we can develop our own small models. We can develop foundational models using our own data for our own applications. So I have just given 3 examples, whatever students have done. So like that, there are many, problems, statements in the country. India is a very diverse country, and we have different kind of set of the problems which Europe doesn't understand or the US does not understand. And at least we should create the solutions for our own problems ourselves, rather than taking a model and training on our data and customizing it to provide solutions, because there are certain threats associated with this. We have been listening to different kind of threats. So it's important also, if you use the model from different companies, you have to see that do we have some safeguard that the input can be filtered or the output can be filtered. So those things are not available straight away you are using it. So we have to see if you are adopting the models from other institutions, we have to see that proper safeguards are taken. And the important thing is that creating small models for our data, because that also important for our economy, I mean, we have been seeing that we are creating products for many companies, but we are the only consumer economy, and money flow is always going from India to outside. If we can create, at least in AI, heavy engineering we cannot do, but if you can create AI models, small models, which are consumed in the India, and the money can stay within the country, that is also a very, very important perspective. With that we have to see. So these are some important points which just I wanted to see in the beginning, and then we'll be taking questions and answering some other things also. Thank you.
Alok sir, we usually earlier we were talking about the roads, electricity, ports as a development infrastructure, and we basically consider them as very critical thing in the development discourse. Now, data is very important, and we are also thinking about the data centers, not only for the industry, but also about the academic institution. How you imagine the role of data in, for the future ready institutions and for the future of education, the importance of data.
Can I speak from there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
See, basically, I'm a teacher, so I prefer speaking while standing. Now, before I specifically go on to what Dr. Ramananji was asking me, I have few fundamental questions for contemplation of this august house, of all the wise people sitting here. And these questions are coming from me as a student, as a faculty of a central institution which has over 40,000 students, on-campus students, as Vice Chancellor of a university which has had on-campus and off-campus close to 5 lakh students, I'm telling you. And then I am Calcutta, which people say there is smaller but stronger lot, which is characterized by certain peculiarities. So, at least I have been part of an ecosystem that provides data to certain meaningful, for certain consumption by some corporates. I always wanted to see artificial intelligence as just an extension of an information tool which keeps coming to our life and living in one form or the other. Few datas have always been there, technologies have always been there. Information technology was one tool that had come and that came to help us process those set of informations easier, transparent, and faster. Now, I see this largely as an extension of the tool where our decision making is certainly going to be faster. I hope it is going to be more accurate, and once it is faster and accurate, it is supposed to be transparent as well. Now, I would contest and strongly contest the conception of artificial intelligence as a single point remedy to all the ills. That is not what is going to make a difference at. It is going to change the processing, way of processing, speed of processing, and accuracy of processing. And so, but then, should we not be ready to take this extremely important information tool that is going to alter our decisions speedier, faster, more accurate, to take into our strides and use it for the greater good? We should. And I believe such a huge summit and such a tremendous response that the summit is receiving is largely because the basic background has already been prepared. The background, I mean, mentally and probably in terms of infrastructure also, India is now ready to take artificial intelligence foray into a stride. As institution, I'll share some of the examples from the experience that I have had and some of the plans that we are using in higher educational institutions. You know, one big problem, as I said, while serving as Vice Chancellor of an institution which has had of the campus and also of affiliate colleges 5 lakh students, examination is, you know, something the most challenged thing here. Now, 5 lakh students in one semester appears in 6 examinations. So it makes out to be 30 lakh copies to be evaluated. Now you have limited number of faculties. So what they do is, first of all, they have had a lot of criteria, this much of experience, this must be of the status of the faculty who would evaluate. And of late what had happened, especially after 6th pay commission, and then subsequently 7th pay commission, especially after 6th pay commission, with the salary of teachers went up so high, it was a non-remunerative assignment to evaluate copies. Those who come from academics may echo my sentiment that probably different institutions have been giving 10 rupees, 15 rupees, maybe 20 rupees for evaluation of a copy. Your salary is 3 lakh plus, so you don't find it. So who will evaluate this? Then if you evaluate, say you bring in some relatively less, based on perception, some relatively less sincere and faculty with proven credentials, they might come, but they might not be doing justice with the task. So, tick, 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 tick. 10 number, 20 number के 5 question. 12, 13, 14, 12, 13, 14, 12, 13, khatam copy. And you take it from here, put it here, then 12, 13, 14, 12, 13, 14, ho gayi copy. That was also not to be done. These are the areas where we can actually bring in artificial intelligence. If we scan the copy, put it in a screen, place the questions. Questions will have certain queries in terms of machine language. These queries will provide you the most standard answer. Through this technology, you can always find the most ideal answer. All the questions will be mapped against those answers. And based on certain common content, it can easily be evaluated, which can never ever be contested. Otherwise, as Vice Chancellor, we most of the time we used to get confronted with the students who would come and say, nahi sahab humko fail ho gaya, nahi sahab humko kam number aa gaya, nahi sahab is paper mein kam aa gaye, ye college ka kharab ho gaya, ye college ka ye ho gaya, and so on. But this would ease the work, make it more accurate, and of course transparent. You want to contest? Come see the copy on the screen. See, this is the ideal answer made available from the available literature that are there on the net. Map it and get the marks. Now, this also poses a threat. A, if there is a student who's very creative in terms of expression, or in terms of bringing some newness to the answer, that cannot be evaluated with the machine. But then, based on those exceptions, or only accounting for those exceptions to the system, you would not design you will not let all those lakhs of students suffer for the time and inaccuracies of the system. Now, what we did, when I came to IIM Calcutta, there I thought, there's a smaller institution, of course, smaller but stronger institution. So let us try and experiment this. So I called one of faculty there and I said, can we do this? So the faculty himself developed a tool and he said, I'll evaluate based on that tool. I said, but also evaluate yourself, manually also. So when we are introducing things, we need greater acceptance of the concept. So let us have this manual evaluation. There is the machine evaluation based on artificial intelligence. See what artificial intelligence is. It projects the future based on the patterns of past. Isn't it? Nothing more, nothing less. Because of the technology, it enables you to do it faster. Isn't it? Extrapolation. Now this extrapolation is not only mathematical but is all pervasive. In all our decisions, this kind of extrapolation can be done. Now, so I said, let us evaluate using both the tools, manual as well as AI, and then share this with the student. Let them select which answer they want, which marks they want. And then gradually, this is what we've done in the last term. But that was only for a course to assess what is the response of the student, because such a drastic change, if you're going to create, there has to have greater acceptance also from the customer side. Now, in order to standardize it, I said, let us not rely on one. Let us have 3 separate tools. Expose the answer scripts with all these 3 tools, and let us either take a mean value or the highest of them all. Largely to be more student friendly, or to be on the student side. Let the benefit of doubt be given to the student. So let us agree between the two that either a mean or the highest of the 3. And then gradually it will accept. But in all these cases, in all these discussions, am I not finding or concluding that all that we are talking of, be it I was just talking to some young people, researchers of CPRG. I have been talking to some very senior people from the system, not just from academics, but also from governance side. You talk to them, are we not talking of artificial intelligence largely from consumption side? Should we not also talk artificial intelligence from creation side? Because our manpower, which is highly skilled, and I'm telling you, I've traveled significantly, and I can tell you, India has one of the finest and most committed, extremely diligent workforce. In order to leverage them, we are going to move beyond this artificial intelligence being seen as a from the consumer side. We also going to see it from the creation side, as if can we create. Now this is very important, and I appreciate the government for taking such a strong measure and taking it this far, is that largely, and Honorable Prime Minister, I read the newspaper, has talked about creation of artificial intelligence products. This is where we missed the bus at the time of this software kranti, software revolution, where we largely concentrated on creating coders. And that is why civil engineer is also working in an IT company, and mechanical engineer is also working in an IT company, and some basic computer knowledge you muster, and then you would get the status of being coder. Our contribution towards creation of software products have been something which we could have and we should have done a little more. And this is a high time where India has got to take things in our stride and create the products, which, I mean, creation side, so that we can serve the rest of the world, taking them as consumer by selling our product, not just consume ourselves. And this will also solve the larger issue of, that is a much talked about issue of, what will happen to the fate of all these people who will get unemployed because of this. So it is important that all the data that comes out of, I mean, from the student fraternity, which is a very significant portion of our population, what is going to happen to this data? Again, as institutional academic administrator, I would talk that we come out with enormous data. What are we doing it for? With such high speed AI, I mean, information technology tool, which I still, my underlying thing is, I still take it as an extension of an information technology tool designed to support our decisions to be made faster, speedier, faster, more transparent, and more accurate. So this is what I think is the starting remark that I have with respect to what Dr. Ramananji spoke about. I'll be ready to take up more questions as it comes. Thank you.
Thank you, Alok sir. Framing India's data issue, especially from the educational perspective. Professor Sulabh, global AI and data governance norms, basically dominated by or basically set by global north and economies, more developed economies. What could be the kind of a role of global south and the global south economies, and how they can better negotiate with global north in the age of AI?
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Ramanand, and thanks Dr. Tripathi and Dr. Rai, who already has created a pitch for me. So I'm basically a professor of statistics and data science, and I'm a professor at IIT Kanpur. So we are the people who are say generating the manpower, who are the people behind the creation of AI tools. So first, very important responsibility comes on the academic institutions who are producing the students to teach them about what is an ethical AI and a non-ethical AI. AI, for a common man, it looks like a magician box which is trying to give something out of the box. But the fact is this is based on the input what it is giving to the data, how the data has to be used in the proper way. This is the biggest challenge, and this is what we teach to our students so that they can implement the right tool on the right data so that they get the right conclusion. Now, coming to this global south issue, if you try to see, as Dr. Ramanand has pointed out, that our south global countries, they are generating a lot of data, and we should not use them only as a consumer, but we try to help them in developing their country and developing their society. So now, recently, if we try to observe in the recent budget, the Honorable Finance Minister has declared and has invited people to establish data center in the country. And they have given different types of, the facilities, including the tax holidays, etc. So the bigger company like as Amazon and OpenAI, etc., they are the companies who are ruling the world with respect to AI. Now, when we are trying to create a data center here, it's not only data center. We are developing our own country also. This is going to generate a lot of employment. When we try to establish a data center at any place, that city, that state gets lots of employment, lot of revenue generation, and this in turn actually help the GDP of the country. So now when we are looking at those south global countries, yes, we have to help them so that they can generate the data in the right way. We can develop our here data center analytics companies, and who are going to develop the tools for them which are useful for their society. I personally believe that if my neighborhood is not having a good life, then I also cannot have a good life. I will always on the risk. So if we want to have a good and safer life, it is also important that that other countries are that the people in other countries also they are having a good life. So in this age, the creation of data centers, creation of analytical tools, creation of institutions who can teach that how to develop the AI tools, how to use statistics, how to use data science, how to use ML in the right way. They are very important. And this is the high time where the government has already taken some steps, but we all have to take them forward, so that we are able to achieve what we really want. So now when we are looking at those South global countries, this is the, I always say that every problem gives us some good opportunity. So because our South global countries are facing this problem, so this India has a very good opportunity where we can develop our analytics center, data center, academic research institution, teaching institutions by which our younger generation is going to be benefited benefited. And one of the say important factor with India is that we have a very huge population, and there is a very huge young population. So now with this data challenges, they are going to get employment, and in turn the country is going to it's not only our country but other countries are also going to be developed. So this is a golden opportunity in my opinion. And we should look forward for this thing. But when we are trying to do these things, then we have to be very careful about other aspects also. India is a vast country. It is a very heterogeneous. It has many characters. Whenever we are trying to develop a data center, for example, then there's geopolitics, geolocation, all these factors comes into picture. Even the political equation, they also come into picture. So they have to be taken proper care, so that the creation of the data centers doesn't fall prey to the politics or the national level politics or the geopolitics or state level politics, number one. Number two, creation of data centers requires the infrastructure, lots of electricity, lot of water consumption. So now we have to be very careful. It should not be only the politics which should dominate the choice of the place for the creation of data center. It should be where it can go in a sustainable way. For example, at those places where we have excess of water, the temperature is low, possibly the consumption of electricity for cooling the data centers and for using the water, the amount of water will become less. So definitely we have many places in India which are underdeveloped, which have not been developed technically, but they have all sorts of these such facilities. So this is a very golden opportunity for the country that different sectors, different organizations, different ministries of government of India, they can come together and they can look for such opportunity where just like we have religious tourism, we have medical tourism, we can have employment tourism places also. And I'm sure that this type of opportunity will really boost the economy of the country, and it won't be difficult, or it will be a very helpful step in achieving the target of the country in 2047 to be a Viksit Bharat. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Salab, to highlight two major issues: role of data center in employment, and how we can, as India, as a diverse country, to train, our data center or tools to understand not only diversity but to how to work in very diverse setup, diverse society, and diverse global world. We have 5 minutes for the to take some questions, and even if anyone in audience want to ask question to panelists, they can raise their hand, and we can take 2 or 3 questions. Anyone? Oh. Yeah.
Hi, my question is to the entire panelists, since you are actually having access to academia and you're working with people who are generating tools, AI tools. So since I'm a lawyer and I'm a privacy counsel, so my question is more towards the privacy. While we are building such tools, how are we protecting, or how these tools will ensure privacy of individuals? Can someone answer that?
You see, the creation of AI tools doesn't come from the God. This is only you who create, who give the input to the model, that how the model has to think. So when you are trying to create such a model, at that step only, you have to just take one more variable, that is the privacy. And what type of privacy? In the beginning, suppose if I take 20,000 cases, you have to classify them whether this case falls to the case of privacy or not. And then gradually the model will understand what exactly do you want, and after this the privacy issue will automatically be created inside your model, which in turn will give you the same output what you want. That all the output taking care of the privacy.
See, we are going to understand the tool. As I said, this is just an art. This is to be seen just an artificial intelligence be seen as an information technology tool designed to support our decisions faster, accurate. Now, there are two aspects to it broadly to comprehend it. There are two aspects to it. A, all the possible content available on internet, that is in our hand. All the possible content, this is where you'll filter the information from. Second is, based on this, my projection. Right? Now, both the cases, if I do not provide you the basic raw material for your consumption to process it further, this is, I'm restricting it. But I echo the sentiment that you have said. Not just that, even before artificial intelligence, come back to the basic information technology tool, like for example, a CRM tool. If I'm making myself or my information available for consumption to these corporates, as long as it stays with you, fair enough. And this is what we believe in, and that is why we allow you to do this. But I raised a question once, and in one of my articles also, I had amply made it questionable as to a student from my institute leaves and goes, say, for example, from Calcutta to Bangalore to join her job. Books a taxi. Now, all these informations are available to that taxi operator. Books a ticket. That information is also available. And when she lands up in, say, Bangalore, and she reaches at around 10 in night. And then again she logs in for a taxi. Immediately a message drops in that XYZ restaurant is to the left, assuming that you would be hungry, you would be needing food. You feel good. But by making all these informations available to a third party, I'm also exposing myself to certain avoidable threats. How these IT people will tell us, but of course this is a double-edged sword. We are going to accept this.
All three of you are leading institutions. So all three of you are leading institutions, and institutions that are themselves generating large data sets in various ways, admissions or data sets, complete training programs. What could be possible measures at the institutional level that, while taking care of all kinds of safeguards, these data sets could be made available for AI development?
Like, there are few informations that I cannot make public, right? So if you'll ask me, share the basic details of your students, we won't. Share their marks, we won't. So there are certain set of informations that are public, like for example, and you would want me to make it public. By after admission process is going on, you would want the entire merit list to be there on the website for greater transparency. So name, father's name, place, etc., previous background, educational background, written marks, interview marks, and so on. But when you ask me the cell number, I won't provide you. You ask me the email ID, I won't provide you. You ask me the residential address, I won't provide you. You ask me the likings, dislikings, I won't provide you. You ask me the previous company, I won't provide you. So it is for us. And once these things will stabilize, many of the issues will come to the fore. And it is coming as situation is evolving. It is certainly coming forward. I hope my co-panelists will also be sharing something.
I think one is we have implemented a consent mechanism, see, as per the DPDP Act, to adhere it for the students. And then data labeling is also being done, so that only the required data which is also important for the research purpose, is made available in a separate entity like data coach and all. And not all the data is transferred to the centralized location, because both things are required. So data is required for do the further research in the and then also important that privacy is being protected. So I think DPDP Act has adequate measures, and if it is implemented by institutions, they will take care of it.
I will just add one line that sometime in order to develop a tool, yes, we can use the data, but we analyze the data. So that is one way out. If you're, as I said, there's ethical AI. If you want to do something, if you want to develop something for the welfare of the humanity, then people will come forward depending on your objective. Yes, I think she wants.
I think we have to wrap up because now we have only 5 minutes.
I think you can take. She just raised the hand earlier.
Okay.
Yeah. She's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Can you all hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I think my biggest question here is we're talking about building AI for the global south, and there are some great possibilities. But are you all considering the algorithmic biases and the societal biases that also creep into AI? I often think about, obviously class, caste, and gender, and weirdly, I felt a little sad that even this panel, there are no women here. And I want to really understand that when we are talking about building AI systems, when we are talking about, bringing it into our lives and progressing, then are you all actually taking all of these different things on board?
You see, as I said, the AI will give you output. AI means artificial intelligence, and above all, there exists natural intelligence which God has given us. So definitely AI will not be AI cannot take a decision which is comparable with a human being. So AI is simply just like your very obedient and efficient slave, which to whom you give hundreds of works. The human will do it in 100 hours. He will do it in 5 minutes. So that AI will give you the output, but it is only we people who are going to take the decision that how are we going to understand it and how we are going to implement it. So all sorts of bias which you are apprehending, yes, they can be corrected, but then you need a knowledgeable person who understand those human biases. They can correct it very easily.
I think you have, asked a very relevant question. Undoubtedly, there are concerns about the, data biases, and we can only stop through transparency of data, how we are using those data. If we will not follow certain structure, certain system, there is a lot of possibility we will, bring a lot of, not only human biases, but the biases which we are importing from the makers of those data, sets. And for the global south, it's a very necessary to understand those biases, to understand those ethical concerns, because it's very important to, make a equitable data-driven society. It was very challenging job for our CPRG to bring, speakers at one point of time. We have invited a lot of people, but some of speakers from the, from the diverse section of the society could not come because of they have already committed. We have worked on the data as a job or future of job, how data is going to influence future ready job, and what could be the possible outcome impact on the industry. And we have one teaser which we just want to play. Thank you everyone for attending the session. Yeah, and I think we have
as safe and trustable. We're just waiting for one more speaker to join us. I'll invite our honorable panelist. We have Dr. Sanjay Bahal, Director General Certain. Dr. Bahal, can we have a round of applause for our speakers, please? Thank you so much. Dr. Madan Oberoi with Google. Dr. Pawan Dugal. We've got David Rowe from the Australian Strategic Policy Institute. Great. I'll let the speakers introduce themselves. Meanwhile, we've got one speaker from Microsoft who's joining in. Right? We can start with David.
Thank you, Kanishkan. Thank you so much for having me here. It's a real honour. It's been an amazing few days. I've been wandering around the building for since Monday, and I just want to say how incredible it is to see so many young, keen, hungry, enthusiastic people who've all got their own startups that they're working on, or they're finishing their studies and thinking about what they're going to do next. It's both intimidating and hugely impressive. So. It's great to be here. I've got a national security and international policy background, so I don't have a technical background. I will very much be coming at these conversations from a geopolitical perspective and thinking about, talking about how we cooperate. Those countries, and Australia, my home country, not part of the global south, but certainly included in the countries that are not close to becoming technical AI superpowers anytime soon. So I think all of those countries that aren't a great power in AI need to think about how they work together closely. So that's the perspective I'll be coming from. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dr. Pawan Dugal. I'm a lawyer in the Supreme Court. I work on the intersection of law and technology. I'm currently heading the Global Artificial Intelligence Accountability Law and Governance Institute. I also have been working on AI accountability, liability, and more significantly, now trying to see how nation states can come up with new legal frameworks for the purposes of holistic AI sovereignty as we actually go forward, apart from doing various other things. Thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Madan Oberoi. I am working as Director Strategic Engagements and Chief Security Advisor for Asia Pacific with Google. But I must not forget my roots, especially since two of my batchmates are sitting in the audience. I'm an Indian Police Service officer retired and 92 batch. And my last posting was as Executive Director for Interpol, looking after technology and innovation. Thank you.
So there's, three doctors, Dr. Gore, Dr. Dugal, Dr. Oberoi, and now we have Mandar coming in from Microsoft. So my name is Sanjay Bahal, and I'm the Director General for the Indian Computer Emergency Response Team. I think that should be more than enough, because now we got a panel. He'll have to start, otherwise we're getting out of time.
Yes, and before I start, I think I need to thank the organizers, the team from Ministry of Electronics Information Technology, Arshil, Saroji. Thank you so much for getting us here. We appreciate. If you can have one group photograph with everyone, and then we can quickly start. One. Yeah.
Thank you.
We are also joined by Mandar Kulkarni, who is the National Security Officer for Microsoft. Mandar, you want to just quickly introduce yourself?
Thank you. I think you did it. We can get started. So I'm National Security for Microsoft India and South Asia. In that role, I work closely with all the cyber security agencies in India, including what Dr. Bahal leads, for collaboration between Microsoft, our threat intel, and how we can work with those agencies. Number one. A little bit more elaborate introduction. I set up Microsoft's cloud 12 years back in India, and I led their cloud business for a few years before moving into national security. Thanks.
Great. I'm Ganesh Gaur. I'm the founder of India Future Foundation. We are a policy think tank working on the intersection of technology, policy, and geopolitics for last 7 years. Thank you, everyone. I'll start with Dr. Bahel. We are here to talk about AI safety and security, but today we see a big gap between the global south and the global north in terms of AI safety preparedness, AI safety resources. And this big divide leads to a constant fight in terms of what the governments can do, the role which tech companies can play. So my key question to Dr. Bahel is, Dr. Bahel, if we were to bridge this gap, which we are facing between global south when it comes to AI risk management and incident response, what could be key things that we could do?
See, if you've carefully looked into this space requires a lot of capital, it requires talent, and it requires energy. So if you have a gap in capital, you are challenged. If you have a gap in talent, you will be challenged. And if you have a gap in energy, you'll be. Fortunately for India, we don't have a gap in the talent part. We have abundant talent, and we can provide that talent to the rest of the world. Now, those who have the capital will obviously pull that talent. And now we have to be very clear as to how we keep that talent. That's number one. From an energy perspective, if you see, there are challenges, what you see in Europe, they are facing already. So if there are some countries who and some companies who have these things, they will obviously be growing, and then that divide starts increasing. So that's where the challenge for deficit in compute and data and models will start increasing. Now, if that divide increases, how are you going to handle those situations? Also, if you see, today there's a challenge in terms of transparency of these models. There's a challenge in terms of the behavioral ability of these AI models. There's also, most of them are, of course, they're from 2 countries, if you see primarily, and the companies there. So there is a challenge in terms of the data which they're being trained on and the linguistic aspects, because how do you address the local Indian dialects, etc. Okay, so now I'm not saying just Indian, but if you look at any South, global South, so any of those, so if you look at the African side or any of this, LATAM, etc. So, we have to start addressing it from that perspective. And also there's a lack of maturity of frameworks and regulations. So if we are not in a position to address these aspects, we will be challenged from the perspective that you have raised. I hope that addresses some portion of what you have.
Absolutely. David, I want to bring you in here. Dr. Bahel mentioned 2 countries and the global divide we have, and there's so much dependence on those 2 countries. What's your view from Australian standpoint? What do you think needs to be done?
I'll borrow your microphone. Thanks, Kanish. Thank you for the question. So yeah, I won't repeat what Sanjay has said. I think all of he's covered those concrete points very, very adequately. So I would take it back to start with just what are the risks and safety, what are the risks and dangers that we're actually talking about? What are the threats? I mean, there's a range of risks. One is obviously misaligned and uncontrolled artificial intelligence. That doesn't have to mean, I hate the term rogue AI because it conjures up those sort of destructive images. It's not necessarily that concrete when we're talking about unaligned or uncontrolled AI. It could simply be artificial intelligence models and tools that start to lead us down a direction that if we stop and think about it, we don't want to go down. I think we're already in, social media is arguably unaligned at the moment. There are lots of outcomes of social media platforms that we all agree are undesirable and yet they are sort of baked into that model, and it's very difficult to come back from them. Another risk is, the strategic danger that your rivals in the world are going to become more competent and more capable than you. That's obviously a risk for countries, well, all countries outside of the US and China, pretty much. Even those two superpowers themselves are constantly worried about, who's going to take the lead. It's enormously consequential. We have the risks of rogue actors, like, the classic case being, the extremist or the extremist organization, or even just the disgruntled individual who takes an AI model or tool, jailbreaks it, uses it to create some sort of deadly weapon, such as a bioweapon. And then there are just the disruptive risks. Let's say everything goes right in the progress of artificial intelligence. It becomes highly capable. It will have disruptive effects on jobs, on, the basic economic models that have applied since, Adam Smith invented the field back in, late 1700s, whenever it was. The social and political upheaval that would follow from that. And beyond the economy, I heard the term, there was an excellent session yesterday that I attended where the term cognitive sovereignty was used. And I found that to be a really, really useful phrase. I mean, it was that basic idea that if you don't have ownership and, a full sense of rights over your own attention and your own awareness of the world, then really you don't have everything. That is a sovereign individual right that we should all hold on to and regard as very, very precious. Now, I would just point to the fact that the superpowers are themselves vulnerable to a lot of those risks. So there isn't actually necessarily a divide between the superpowers and the non-superpowers, or the global north and the global south. A lot of these risks are across the board. The thing that I would point to most strongly in terms of what we can do, what all of our countries can do together to try and fill the gap that does exist, is through cooperation. We need to share. We need to cooperate. We need to sort of build our understanding together and develop a kind of a network of countries that can sort of push back against these threats and risks.
Sure. I think that's a very important point in terms of building collaboration. And I think where the role of big tech plays an extremely important role. There are companies like Google, which work both in the global south and in global north, and they have tremendous opportunity and also the resources. So, Dr. Oberoi, what do you think companies like Google to do when it comes to embedding safety and security by design and preventing misuse of AI?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. And I would say Google being a hyperscaler, one of the fundamental duties is to provide a secure infrastructure. And when we say secure infrastructure, and I would definitely like to refer to Google's Safe AI framework, which has basically 6 pillars, but I'll stick to 3 interesting points. One is the infrastructure security, where it is secure by design at each stage of the AI life cycle. And how do we do that would also depend how secure our systems are. And then comes the issue of providing automated guardrails. And when I say automated guardrails, I mean things like model armor, where we are looking at the responses as well as the prompts, so that harms through things like prompt injection cannot happen, or while giving out responses, we are not exfiltrating any sensitive data, so those things can be brought in there. And the third aspect, which I would say is basically on the shared responsibility model. And that is where each and everybody has to perform their role so that we are able to take care of the security. And And it is here, I would say, the role of big tech companies like Google would be in terms of providing tools to do this, whether it is, let's say, Synth ID, where we are looking at watermarking various deepfakes, etc. So that is very important where we can do it. Or even agentic identity management is concerned. I'm also tempted here when I talk about identity management in terms of based on my previous experience in law enforcement, the big attribution gap which exists. So unless we are able to bridge that, we would be running into problems, and that's where the security per se, what hyperscalers can do, if we compare it in terms of a safe city, hyperscalers are providing infrastructure like roads, etc. But the ultimate security comes through the collaborative policing, where each and every stakeholder has to play a part. So that is, therefore, unless all of us play our part, we won't be able to ensure that. I'll pause here and see.
Great, thank you. Mandar, when it comes to shared responsibility, what role do you think people like you need to play? You've been the National Security Officer, been doing work on cyber, but the rules have changed now. It's AI, the ages of AI. So what do you think has really changed for someone like you when it comes to shared responsibility?
I think what you said, shared responsibility, is the key term here. And while sometimes we talk about EU being over-regulated, they actually provided a good framework through EU AI Act, right? Because many times we get very fixated when we talk about AI on models, right? How good are models, how safe are models, and all that. But I think what we need to understand is AI is not only model, right? There are multiple layers, multiple tiers that we need to secure when we talk about AI. We need to secure data, we need to secure models, of course, and Dr. Bahel talked about model being black box, not explainable or transparent, so that's a layer. So data, model, content, infrastructure, and then the application layer. We need to, an identity. Mr. Oberoi talked about identity. I think those are the layers that we need to secure, right? Why is that? Your model could be good, but how is your application secure or not will determine ultimately whether your AI gets compromised. AI is not only model. You're not interacting with raw models. Most of us interact with an interface, right? It could be Copilot, it could be Gemini, it could be GPT, ChatGPT. We interact with that. And I'm talking about the simplest of AI application. As you get into a little bit more complex application, the business applications where AI is going to really make an impact, the application, the infrastructure, the data layer is going to be, an identity layer is going to be even more critical. So with that, I think shared responsibility becomes extremely critical, or is very, very important, because the responsibility is not only with one party. So it's not only the guys who are developing models, right? They are providing you raw model, right? Then there is responsibility on the people who develop applications using those models. Then there are guys who are using those applications, right? A bank, a government institution, or anyone else, right? That's the third layer. And fourth is us, who actually end consume that application. So there is responsibility that is across those 7 layers in AI application stack, but also across these 4. So it's a 7x4 matrix, right? Those 4 people or stakeholders who build or use AI application have the responsibility. I'll give you one simple example, right? There was a very popular trend that came up when ChatGPT created that Ghibli images, right? Everybody uploaded their pictures in it, right? Now, did we really think about how we are uploading, what we are uploading, where it is going to go? No disrespect to what OpenAI did, but the frenzy that we saw is the risk. And that was a very simple example because that happened to us in consumer life. Very similar things are happening in business, right? When people want to do, let's say, summarization, right? They are taking help of either an AI application that is deployed by an enterprise, so governed by their IT and security team, or many cases, if there is no AI application that is provided, users are using application This is like a second generation, right? All of us dealt with shadow IT since cloud came. Now we are dealing with shadow AI, which is even more difficult for IT teams to manage and govern. So that's going to be the important thing, right? One, how we pin the responsibility and secure all 7 layers of AI application. Second, how we pin responsibility on all the 4 constituents. Holding only the model or only the end user responsible will not work. We have to distribute that responsibility.
Absolutely. Yes, Dr. Bahl, please go ahead.
No, well, Mandar has talked about this 7 into 4. There's one thing which is conveniently, or I don't know, conveniently, and also Dr. Oberoi, they've missed out, is you will still have challenges, and that is where the state would require certain details, and that's where, whether you call them through the regulator or the law enforcement agencies, etc., demanding details, and then that is where the shared responsibility aspect comes in, but then that shared responsibility suddenly disappears from the big tech, because then you start coming through MLAT, and you come through all sorts of other channels, and that information is never received. So I don't know what happened to shared responsibility at that time.
That's a tricky one. Mandar, I'll let you. Mandar, you don't need to answer that. Okay. I want you to hold on to it right now. This is getting really interesting, right? You've got a regulator and you've got a big tech.
So this was no guardrails, right?
Absolutely, no guardrails. So, Dr. Duggal, right? And we'll bring in Dr. Oberoi as well. Dr. Duggal, when we talk about those 7 layers can't be secured either by the developer or the deployer or by the platform alone. It is collective responsibility, right? So how do you think the liability and the accountability needs to evolve? Because we're talking about securing those 7 layers, and not one platform owns everything. You have got different platform providers. The AI developers are different. So how do you evolve in this space?
It's very clear that it's very clear that the 6 major AI laws in the world so far, the European Union AI Act, Chinese 2 laws on generative AI and AI labeling, South Korean law, Japan's basic AI law, Hungarian law, and El Salvador law, are nothing but a classical example of 6 blind men trying to describe an elephant. None of these laws have actually gone ahead and started addressing the fundamental issue of accountability. Yes, the UAI approach of low risk, high risk is a great starting point, but ultimately you will have to make things accountable. 2025, the issue was, should we regulate AI or not? That's no longer the position in 2026. 2026 is that once AI causes harm to humans, who's going to be accountable? And that's the reason accountability becomes of crucial necessity. If you're wanting self-regulation to govern accountability, then you are on the wrong platform, because the train is never going to arrive. You will never see self-regulation promoting accountability. Why? Because monies are involved, finances are involved, effort is involved. That's the reason we'll have to come up with legal principles to govern accountability. In January 2026, I launched the AI Accountability Framework, which is a collation of all legal principles, doctrines, and philosophies, which lawmakers across the world need to keep in mind as they come up with new laws on AI accountability. How about liability? Can I just make only the coder liable? Can I make the company liable? I think I come up with the new concept of a graded liability model, where whenever a harm gets caused to a human, there'll have to be equal, or shall I say proportionate, responsibility of various stakeholders. Some bit for the coder, some bit for the company who's giving the said model, someone for the company who's marketing, and someone even for the data principal, the user. I mean, I recently got this case where this guy was working with a particular AI model in central India, and he's obviously been bullied in class, and he decides to get solutions from AI. AI says the best solution is go commit suicide. He argues against that, fails. After 3 months, AI is very successful. This man asks AI, what's the best way to end my life? He says, go and slit your wrists. He slits the wrists, thinking that's the end of the life. Parents come in and find him in a pool of blood, take him to the hospital. He's now out of danger, but his hand is paralyzed. Who's going to be accountable in such a scenario? I think we'll have to have graded responsibilities, but for that, you will have to have a regulatory approach. You cannot just leave it to self-regulation. You cannot leave it to cooperation. And how about accountability in terms of transparency? Today I'm dealing with AI as a black box. I have a fundamental human right towards reality, towards ensuring that my cognitive faculties are not interfered with or colored with by AI. We need to incorporate all that as part of cognitive neuro rights of citizens, as part of the legal frameworks that we talk about. Maybe we could look at an AI constitution, because the existing constitutions of countries, including in India, don't really have been, shall I say, made ready for the AI age in a scenario like this. So we'll have to look at issues of transparency. Can we come up with an algorithmic transparency protocol, which is mandating companies, guys, come up with these levels of transparency in order to make your AI model or AI algorithm more explainable? And more significantly, can you be the repository of AI rights? Today, the advent of AI brings in new AI rights for the users. Nobody's talking about them. Today, when a 399 pack is launched in a country like India, it's not that world-class services are given to you because you are kind or because you are so special. Sorry. You are the fulcrum of all the data which the big tech companies want to ultimately collect. And if you talk of accountability, I have to also talk of a connected area of cognitive colonialism. Indians have started walking towards back cognitive colonialism. They are ready to become cognitive slaves of big tech companies, ready to mortgage their cognitive faculties at the doors of AI, thinking, well, that's the best of the world. Well, hold on. With more Alzheimer's coming in your way because of your cognitive incapabilities, you have a bigger problem. And therefore, I think the need ultimately to secure your cognitive spaces will have to be an integral part of the accountability governance model as you go forward. You'll have to make them liable. But where do we make them liable? What legal remedies do we provide? Where do I actually sue them? Do I sue them within my own country? Or shall I say the El Salvador model, who says, look, use an El Salvador algorithm, no problem. Wherever you are, harm is caused to you, you come to El Salvador and sue me here. Only then will I be able to look at it.
Very interesting point made by Dr. Duggal. One is the whole AI safety repository, and the second part is particularly around your cognitive colonialism. And I was on a TV panel yesterday, and we spoke about how Gen Z was becoming addicted, and their brain was getting rot because all the kind of content they watch. When I go to business schools and I do leadership sessions, I find much of the learning is not happening through classroom, but it is actually happening through reels, which is really bad because you have some superficial knowledge of a subject, but you don't know what it is there in the depth. So if you were to make an AI safety repository to bring more safety, security, and more ownership between regulators and developers in emerging economies, what are some of the key things we need to do? And this question is for anyone who wants to take up from the panel. Dr. Oberoi, you want to chime in?
So in terms of the repositories, and I assume you are referring to the regulatory repositories, what I would say that there is a need for these kind of repositories because we need to learn from each other. We need to have repository, at least regional hubs or regional alliances whereby we can exchange what is happening. At the same time, one point which I think Pawanji mentioned was with regard to the ability of these regulations to be sensitive to the local languages, cultural nuances. That is very important. So that also has to be kept in mind. But at the same time, we also, in order to encourage innovation part, we also have to provide for the regulatory sandboxes. And that's where a lot of things need to be developed. And that's where probably if you look at the overall environment about what all is happening on the regulatory front, that comes into picture. And so I'll summarize by one, collaboration in terms of repositories, whether it is at regional level or global level, ideally at global level, but at the same time, being sensitive to the cultural nuances and the local language, dialects, etc., so that our notions of biases are not influenced only by the Western norms. So therefore, it has to be sensitive to the local nuances also. At the same time, providing an environment for innovation through sandboxes. And I think I'll refer to one of the previous comments which was made in terms of providing enough regulations to to make sure that we do not cause any harm. But at the same time, I'll just like to point that we have to be careful that we do not curb the innovation part. So it has to be, as has been one of the sutras of the 7 sutras, that innovation is much more important than the restraint. So we have to be more positive on that aspect. I'll pause.
Interesting. David, how do you build interoperability in AI governance without compromising national sovereignty, innovation?
Okay. Thanks, Ganesh. Well, I mean, there are certainly some foundational and fundamental things that you can do while still allowing for a lot of room to move at a national sovereign level. So, I mean, you can agree on some really basic things, like, for instance, the illegitimate use of AI to carry out force or violence, for instance, like a bioterror attack. I think everyone can agree that that is something for which there should be very, very strict guardrails. But at the same time, you can allow for a lot of sort of national approaches to allow for sort of local conditions. But I think, like, at a more basic level, I think we need to get away from this idea that every commitment to international cooperation is an undermining of sovereignty. Like, that's actually the wrong way to think about it. All international agreements require some compromise, and you compromise because it creates a common set of understandings where everyone is better off. You might not be able to do whatever you want, but across the board, with each international agreement, everyone is better off. It lifts all boats. That's the whole idea of multilateralism, of international cooperation. So we've got to get away from this idea that it's a undermining of sovereignty. And I would point to the fact that, with AI being a very strong example of this, what could be worse for national sovereignty than having excessive control in the hands of private sector companies, organizations in other countries? It's not an attack on big tech at all. It's just the point that a private sector company that is not accountable to your state in any way is a much greater danger to your sovereignty.
Absolutely.
Than,
we saw that during the time Grok was creating all those filthy images, right? Certain countries decided to ban Grok and X, and it's only after that the response came in. Certain countries just limited themselves to leaving threats, open threats, I would call those. Dr. Behl, any thoughts on this? I know you're looking on the other side, right?
No, I think David has made a few very critical points. One, in his first session, he mentioned about people should be sovereign, and you are going to have challenges now when you are looking at implants coming in and AI trying to tell you what to do. Now, are you thinking on your own, or someone else is thinking for you? What happens if more and more people in a nation start getting those implants? Who's driving you? It's probably those big tech companies. And that's what Dr. Dougal talked about, colonialism. So you become a slave again. And then what's happening from the perspective, if you see some of these research reports, right in somewhere in the top few, India is using AI. The median age is 28 years. Whereas if you see that, where does US stand? It's somewhere towards the bottom end. Why? Has someone thought about it? Why is that so? I don't know what the right answer should be, but my view is that I want you to use it where I don't want to use it, so that you become a slave to me. Right? I will do critical thinking because that's one of the requirements as we go forward, critical thinking. You have no critical thinking anymore. I have the critical thinking. I will be developing the models. I'll develop what I want, and you use them. So you become a slave again, as Dr. Dougal mentioned. So I think there are multiple things which are happening. We have to be careful about it. And then on the other side, we say AI is going to have an impact on the economy. And as David just mentioned, the companies are driven by commercial aspects. They want to make profits. I was just talking before we entered the room that if AI agents, models, and when you're looking at cognitive AI, etc., they are going to be doing all the work for you. So you will have a challenge of resources actually earning money. So if there is no earning of money, where is the income tax? So if these models are going to do the work, where does the tax go, or where do the profits go? It's not to your country, it's somewhere else. So what happens to the governments? Is it going to actually create an economic impact or a drain? And then what happens to your yearly budgets, which come that income tax itna ho gaya, income tax utna ho gaya? Oh, kiske upar tax hoga?
Absolutely, that's a very valid point. And Mandar, I've been holding you, so I think now is the time. There's a lot of questions. You want to chime in and give some of those key answers. There's a lot of work you've been doing in this space, working with different regulators, whether it's CERT, I4C, NCI, PCC, right? So please.
Thanks, Kanish. So, 3 points here. Number one, kind of a response to what Dr. Baer mentioned. So that 4 pillars for accountability, big tech is one of them, right? So we are not saying in the 4 layers, right? There is of course big tech. So when you pin accountability, when there is a regulatory framework, everybody, including the big tech, should be included. You can't keep a stakeholder out. That's point number one. So the accountability framework that both even Dr. Duggal talked about has to cover everybody. Right? A great example actually, if even the end users, we ourselves in our personal life can't escape. So that's point number one. Point number two, one of the things that we will have to do, right? India is not only net user, any technology, right? We are also the service provider, right? We develop application. What we do great, India, is diffusion. Right? You look at the biggest success that has come out of India, our DPI stack, right? JAM, DPI stack, right? We didn't build Kubernetes, right? Or we didn't build any of those many of those technologies. We did definitely build a lot of them, but we used to diffuse technology, right? Everybody, without we knowing what technology drives it, we use Aadhaar, we use mobile, we use the entire payment, all of that, right? So where we are great at is diffusing technology. In my opinion, that's something that we need to also keep in mind when we look at AI. Should India develop AI, whether it is models or chips or all of that? Definitely. But while doing that, we should not slow down and we should use diffusion. Because if we slow down, our competition is not going to slow down, right? We have countries to our left, countries to our right, and all around us, right? Who are investing big on AI. They are doing it all. They are developing their own models, they are developing their chips, but they are great at diffusion. So the question that we need to ask is, do we want to slow down and wait for everything, or we want to take AI and ensure that it goes to the bottommost section of our societies? What did DPI do? It got services to the people who were deprived of the services, whether it is banking, whether it is access to technology, right? They don't know technology, right? When somebody, a street vendor is using UPI, he doesn't know what it runs on, right? But it solves a big problem for him or her. Now, one of the questions that we all need to understand and address is, how do we use AI for diffusion? How do we make that work for the common man? The big techs and big enterprises, both Indian and multinationals, they will take care of themselves, right? From how do they use AI, right? And most of us in the commercial segment are working with large enterprises. There will be push-pull, there will be regulatory guardrails that will come in. We'll definitely welcome that. But that's happen. That will happen. I think we need to replicate our success on DPI and ensure that AI works for the last person on the ground. I think that will really make this Impact Summit useful. If we can take AI, get out of boardrooms and get to the commonmost people and change their life. In my opinion, I think that will be the success of this summit.
While we spoke on DPIs, another key element is the AI-generated misinformation, which is impacting public discourse and election today. So, Mandar, if you were to build cross-sector collaboration to prevent large-scale trust erosion, particularly with the kind of content we are seeing being generated on different social media platforms, and it's a combined collective responsibility. What do you think needs to be done?
Yeah, I think great question. And I think, I'm sure CERT is working on a lot of that, I foresee. But I think it is again a three-layered approach, right? First, the industry will need to come out with something which is a consensus, right? For example, a lot of content is going to come out of the big techs. So first, we need to agree, and there are efforts, right? C2PA is one of the frameworks. But I think everybody needs to come on that platform. That's number one. But that will not be enough, because while Google's and Microsoft would probably ensure that the content is provenance and all that, there are going to be raw actors who will not. So that's where I think the role of CERT and everybody else, even some law enforcement, will need to come in. Sorry, just one. So three-layer. First is the big tech, or we create frameworks which are more voluntary. Second, there will be a regulation at maybe country level at that. And third, it will be sectorial. Things like RBI and all of them will need to come in. I think we'll need all. Unfortunately, we are seeing gaps. We are seeing industry doing it, not everybody is on board. We are seeing laws coming in, not all countries are there, and even regulators. There are various levels of maturity. All three things will need to happen so that we take care of both the legal tech as well as the rogue tech.
Great, thank you. Can we bring in collective responsibility? That's the key part. He mentioned about collective responsibility. Is it really possible to build collective responsibility? Can you get the regulators and the big tech to agree? That's the $1 million question. You want to chime in on this?
I was just going to make the point that to me, with something like mis and disinformation, the ultimate backstop has got to be the resilience of your citizens. You are not going to stop deepfake disinformation. I think that genie is so far out of the bottle that the bottle is just not even there anymore. You're not going to stop it. So the only way to deal with it is to have critically thinking citizens who are, from primary school, from elementary school, from primary school, from kindergarten, from the time they're crawling around. They need to be helped to develop those skills. That means that they can resist disinformation, they can spot it, they can think critically about it, and that is the solution. You're not going to stop it from the government.
Dr. Duggal, you think we are over-relying on regulation here? What David just mentioned is about citizen being more aware. In a country with 1.4 billion people, you think that level of awareness can be created?
I don't think so. I think we need to be understanding it very clearly. You will have to drive it through regulation, because self-regulation is not working. The Danda model is what's going to work in majority of the third world countries. Also, we'll have to understand that we must start getting empirical evidence. Everybody is saying, well, everything is hunky-dory. But AI has started causing harm to humans. In January, I launched the Global AI Harms Registry, which is collating 9 different categories of harms which AI is causing to humans. Once we have the empirical evidence, we will be using it as a basis for developing legal principles for mitigating such harm. But ultimately, why are we so much concerned about regulation? We all want innovation, yes, but innovation is not possible without regulation. You will have to have minimal enabling regulation so as to promote further innovation as we go forward. You are innovating, somebody goes and steals your innovation. What happens? What remedies do you have? What legal frameworks do you have? Unfortunately, I have yesterday's laws which I'm using for the purposes of dealing with tomorrow's challenges, and that doesn't work. Indian IT Act is a 26-year-old legislation, accepting and wanting it to be interpreted in the context of AI when it was never drafted, and keeping that thing in mind is important. What Prime Minister Modi said yesterday was very important. He said India has to have a very graded approach towards regulation. So the message is loud and clear. The regulation has to come in. 200 bills are going to be passed on AI in this very year across the world. So you are saying regulation is not there, or over-regulation? Sorry, that's not happening. Regulation will have to start addressing meat by meat, point by point, the various issues as we go forward. Otherwise, the sovereignty of the countries, the security and the integrity of countries shall stand prejudicially.
Thank you, Dr. Oberoi.
I'll go back to the point, Kanishk, which you mentioned in terms of how it has to be a collective responsibility between regulators and tech companies and everyone else also. The point is, going by Pawan's statement regarding that we need regulations, and there's no denying to that fact that regulations are needed. But what is regulation or policy? A policy at the end of the day is just an intent. Ultimately, it has to be enforced. And how do we enforce it? For that, we need technology today. And that is where, therefore, the tech companies' role comes in building those technology, those guardrails, so that the regulations which have been brought by government can be enforced on ground. Today, imagine that the latest guidelines of Rules 2026 of IT Act say that a deepfake takedown window is 24 hours.
3 hours.
3 hours, sorry. 3 hours, my mistake. So 3 hours, how do we take down that without the appropriate technology? So unless we have that enabling technology, these are just intents without any implementation mechanism.
Dr. Bahel?
So in these last 10 seconds, I mean, all this actually needs to work. The base layer has to be trust. If there is no trust between big tech and the regulators, there's going to be a challenge. There will be gaps. And what David said is correct. You need people or children to be having critical thinking right from beginning, but you also need regulations. But the challenge with regulations, as Dr. Dugal mentioned himself, is you're dealing with yesterday's regulations for tomorrow's challenges. Even if you have today's regulations, you will still be dealing with tomorrow's challenges. So how are you going to be keeping up? So you need regulations which are going to be dynamic. You cannot have regulations made today and then say, I'm still going to be dealing. You will always be in that challenge situation, feedback. That loop is going to be closed only when you are starting to look at dynamic regulations. But the constant thing is going to be what David mentioned, ensure that critical thinking is there so that people understand why these dynamic regulations are required and how do you address them. So I think that is what has to be done, and the layer of trust has to be cemented. Today there's a huge challenge from that perspective. So I'll stop there.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bahel, for summarizing it. The layer of trust has to be here. Last closing remarks, 15 seconds with everyone. If I were to work with you and build trust and safe AI for the next 5 years, where do I need to start in 2026? Mandar, we can start with you.
Yeah, I think I kind of said this earlier. It will need to be rooted in these three layers, right? Where the industry will need to build a trustworthy framework. There has to be regulation, of course, and a third layer where we do the user education, as David mentioned. It will need to be all three of them. And actually, Dr. Bahel summarized it well. There has to be trust in across three layers, right? All three layers will need to trust with each other and continue.
Thanks. I mean, trust follows safety without stating the obvious. That, I mean, we've got to concentrate on safety. In order to achieve that, I think government needs to be the standard setter for artificial intelligence. This is the most profound technology that humanity will ever invent, ever introduce. There is nothing like the legitimacy of the state to control, well, to direct and guide something so powerful. It cannot be left to the private sector. The role of the state representing the people, the citizens, is absolutely crucial. The government needs to be the standard setter here.
Collaboration and trust with all stakeholders is a given yes, but distrust in AI has to be an even more absolute yes. We must be learning to distrust AI. Why? Because AI has started going rogue. It's acting against human interests. And as we walk towards AGI and ultimately superintelligence, the important issue will be how do we ensure that AI does not work against human interest? Because ultimately AI has become an existential threat. And in that regard, the policy and the legal guardrails have to be put in the development process of AI today. And that's the best way how we can save the trust of all the stakeholders in the AI ecosystem.
Thank you. I would say that going back again for my policing background, that trust and safety, they are recognized when they are invisible. A safety which is visible, or where visible efforts are made, it means there is no safety. Today we don't distrust that electricity wires will be leaking in the walls because we trust that, and therefore what has to be done is we have to move away from this philosophical debate. We have to move into a stage of technological engineering enablement so that this trust is built. We have had enough debate about that, and that debate is not going to stop. Technology whose time has come will come, whether we like it or not. So we have to build around it. Thank you.
I think I did summarize earlier, but just as a last statement, when you're looking at trust, safety, security, it'll all at this point in time have to be a good balance between art and science. Without both these things, you will not be able to achieve trust, safety, security. And we have enough examples from our old scriptures of ensuring science and art. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Before I let my panelists go, if anyone wants to ask any questions, I'll start with.
Maybe two questions you can take.
I can take a couple of questions. So, we start with Mr. Maheshwari. Yeah, do you want to quickly? Mr. Maheshwari.
Deepak Maheshwari, Senior Policy Advisor at CSEP. So when you're looking at this whole thing around trust, I think what we also need to look at is, as was mentioned earlier, in terms of this whole perpetuation about the tendency and the chances of post-colonial dependency. And I think from that perspective, it is important that the communities, companies, as well as the citizenry and the countries in the global south also get equitable space at this global discussions around 3 E's: equity, ethics, and ecology. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Maheshwari.
Yeah, maybe going forward, what do you think should be the right model for governance or regulation? Not just in view of maybe AI, but maybe such future technologies which are going to be equally harmful and equally transformative.
Or equally beneficial.
Yeah, I'll let people face the questions. Anupama, you wanted to ask, right?
Hi. So my question is, this is related to a situation. So at this point, we've all been discussing about humans and AI. My question to all of you is a situation when agents are interacting with each other, and especially when we're talking about agent to agent being developed, concepts like MCP. So if in the next 5 years, it's when the agents which are talking within themselves, and this is when we're building up agents, let's say for government organizations or let's say companies.
One last question. I want to take up someone from the back, right? Someone's, yeah, go ahead.
I have a quick question. Two gentlemen over here mentioned that onus is on the regulators for making sure there are guardrails in place, and the onus is on the citizens for having critical thinking. But why did the big tech platforms have to rush to release models like LLM models without having the guardrails in place in advance? What was the need for having rushed it all out without ensuring that people were ready to use it more responsibly, especially at a time where organizations like fact-checking organizations are retreating, their budgets are crunching down, and people whose job it is to even detect fake news or fight fake news or fight deep fakes, they themselves are retreating. You'll see the number of fact-checking organizations and fact-checkers is also going down. So why not put that guardrail in place first?
Which one do you want to pick up?
Okay, let me pick up the regulation part. I think countries in the global south, particularly India, cannot do a cut, copy, paste. We cannot have an EU model applicable here. Why? Because the ground realities are different. Number two, in the developing countries, going back to regulators or to the legislature and getting amendments is going to be a tall process. So I advocate a principle-based approach. Let's look at broad legal principles, which can be effective for narrow AI, agentic AI, AGI, and superintelligence. And then give sectoral regulators the flexibility to come up with sectoral specific regulations. That's the best way going forward. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult because even if I make a law today, in the next 6 months, it's going to be obsolete. The DPDP Act is obsolete vis-a-vis AI because it does not mention AI. So obviously, I'll have to give that flexibility to the government to come up in that regard. And also, we'll have to look at the common minimum denominators. Let's not reinvent the wheel. Let's look at the experiences of other countries and then try to see how can we go ahead and do things in this regard.
Hello. Hello.
what is our strategy about developing the critical thinking among the people? We have millions of people who are studying in higher education, but the way we are teaching, way we are doing the critical thinking is a key part. So are we also thinking of developing a model which will inculcate critical thinking among the people in different domains, not only single domain, but different domains?
We are running out of time. I got your question. Thank you. Just one last comment, and we can have the speakers speak to you offline. They're here, right? Yeah.
I'll take the agency question. I think that the recent Maltbook case was incredible for the fact that if you leave agents in a space together, they don't just sit there and do nothing. That's the most incredible thing about it. Even if the more extreme response, even if the more extreme things that they were saying, some of those were fake because they were actually put in by human beings. But even if you knock off the most extreme ones, they actually don't just sit there and do nothing. They start talking to each other. We are in a really profound new era. And that's why I think a lot of the conversations are actually kind of legacy conversations. I think we're talking as if we're still in the same old world. We're not.
Great.
Actually, we'll have to go and reinvent our legal principles. Actus reus, mens rea are irrelevant today in the context of AI. And therefore, new legal principles, new legal futuristic approaches will have to guide us as we go forward.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. But this, we are run out of time. I'll thank the mighty team for the support. Can we have a round of applause for our speakers, the audience, and also the team from India Future Foundation? If you can stand up, please. You have been working for the last 20 years. Please come forward, my India Future Foundation team as well. Join us. Yeah, we'll give the token of thanks. I'll just get one of my team members. Pankaj, can you come in forward? Yeah, Pankaj. We have a token of thanks from the mighty team. I'll ask one of my colleagues to come in as well. Pankaj, can you come forward, please? Ashish? Deepak? Shreyansh? Yeah, if you guys can come forward, please. Pankaj, you can join.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.